Hating when you say Joliet, it's Joliet. That's the man. This ain't shit jolly about it. This bitch Jolly Rack.
Welcome to Jolly Rack.
So real on birthday, we outside, man. We're live in the trenches, boy.
Birthday eat out.
God.
We out here doing 10-year crimes, and you ain't no 10-year nigga. So do some small shit. Do shit for the time that you know you can do. If you a 2-year nigga, do a 2-year crime.
If I knew what I knew now, I would have never been in the streets. You know what I mean? Dead brothers I got, boy, I'm from Motown. First shit I'm exposed to is street shit. So of course I want to be a street nigga growing up.
We pushing positivity and love, brother, for sure.
Stop playing with us, that's how I get. This my shit, you come over here and we gon' f your good ass up. .P.A. M Block be chasing that shit, folks. Daddy got my brother name and they mouth hot air. Do you? We can do it however you want to. 1, 2, 3, get to blitz. 5, 5, 6, overspitting the coast niggas, some bitches and every nigga that's with them. That coast nigga, we know you told on your homie. We know you told on your homie, man. You know how the f you coming, man.
You like it, my soul.
This mic. Wait, oh, fuck mic. He's right here, look. Well, outside right now, finna pull up on us. This all do all day.
Ain't no gun. Been through this bit for 10 minutes.
Come on,
some money on there.
We break it down, Jolly Rack for real, You know what I'm saying? Free bass, free spank, free 30. This the ugly corner. This where it get ugly. Low leg X, man. That's my big brother. Y'all know that.
Low big bro. You know what I'm saying? Y'all speak on him. Y'all see what happened last time.
Joliet announcing a major operation to get dangerous suspects off the streets.
It's called Operation Streetsweeper. Police arrested a total of 21 people in a single day.
At least 12 people shot, 2 of them now dead. The shooting occurred at a Halloween party in the backyard of a home along Jackson Street in Joliet Township around midnight.
I seen people in costumes and stuff like that, but that's what I seen. I'm like, what's going on out here? It's kind of unusual. So there was a party last night.
Police say a patrol sergeant heard a dozen gunshots, and once closer to the area, people were seen running for their life.
Joliet, Illinois, a city once defined by steel, limestone, and the steady hum of industry, has long been one of the Midwest's most complex crossroads. Just 40 miles southwest of Chicago, Joliet's story runs deeper than its nickname, City of Stone and Steel. It's home to legends like actor Randy Savage, NFL star Tom Thayer, and Bill Evans, the longtime police chief known for his firm stance on community policing. The city's cultural backdrop stretches from Route 66 nostalgia and the Joliet Correctional Center, immortalized in the Blues Brothers, to the rhythm of suburban expansion and hard-won local pride. But beneath the historic downtown and growing skyline lies another, darker narrative, one shaped by decades of street gangs, drug pipelines, and retaliatory violence that mirror Chicago's south and west sides. From the vice lords and Latin kings to Gangster Two-Six and a revolving web of local crews, Joliet has been both a refuge and a battlefield. Law enforcement's ongoing operations from Operation Streetsweeper to Operation King Kong tell the story of a city that refuses to surrender its streets, no matter how deep the roots of violence go. In this documentary, we'll explore the major gang crackdowns, arrests, and cases that have defined Joliet's fight against organized street crime, examining the people, police work, and prosecutions that continue to shape this Illinois city's legacy.
Violence and gangs. In Joliet, Illinois, for example, population just 77,000, there were 288 gang-related shootings from January of last year through November. In November, the prosecutors decided it was time to try a different approach. Here's ABC's Kathy Wolf.
The mass arrest of gang members in Joliet came after a particularly brutal crime. A gang firebombed the home of Nicolasa Esquibel in November. They were after the woman's grandsons. The boys escaped. The 91-year-old woman burned to death.
For the people who live here, it's just the nightmare that we were all waiting for, an escalation in the violence.
The highly publicized case led authorities to take an unusual step. State Attorney James Glasgow indicted not only those who allegedly committed the crime, but those who allegedly planned it. To do that, he used charges rarely used in gang cases, conspiracy and mob action. It allowed him to arrest 47 defendants at once in connection with 3 different. Even gang members agree the mass arrests have quieted the streets.
It's definitely that. It's got to be that, because there ain't been nothing since.
The conspiracy charges may be hard to prove in court. They depend on the testimony of other gang members who are rarely convincing to juries. But the prosecutor plans to continue the tactic to try to keep the most violent gang members off the street.
Violence and gangs. In Joliet, Illinois, for example, population just 77,000. There were 288 gang-related shootings from January of last year through November. In November, the prosecutors decided it was time to try a different approach. Here's ABC's Kathy Wolf.
The mass arrest of gang members in Joliet came after a particularly brutal crime. A gang firebombed the home of Nicolasa Esquibel in November. They were after the woman's grandsons. The boys escaped. The 91-year-old woman burned to death.
For the people who live here, it's just the nightmare that we were all waiting for, an escalation in the violence.
The highly publicized case led authorities to take an unusual step. State Attorney James Glasgow indicted not only those who allegedly committed the crime, but those who allegedly planned it. To do that, he used charges rarely used in gang cases, conspiracy.
In jail to hold them at least for a while.
Even gang members agree the mass arrests have quieted the streets.
It's definitely that. It's gotta be that, because there ain't been none since.
The conspiracy charges may be hard to prove in court. They depend on the testimony of other gang members who are rarely convincing to juries. But the prosecutor plans to continue the tactic to try to keep the most violent gang members off the streets. Kathy Wolf, ABC News, Joliet, Illinois.
This effort involved weeks of planning, culminating in a single-day operation aimed at removing dangerous people from the streets of Joliet. As a result, 21 individuals were arrested yesterday on a variety of charges. While the city has seen a decrease in crime this year, the operation was specifically aimed at addressing the recent uptick in violent crimes. Among the nearly 24 suspects taken into custody was 25-year-old Diamanta Barber. Barber faces charges of aggravated discharge of a firearm, possession of a weapon by a felon, and is allegedly linked to a shooting that took place in the 1400 block of North Center in July. However, the police are especially proud to have arrested 25-year-old Demetrius Houston Jr. and 20-year-old Donnell Brown.
Following a brief foot pursuit, both were found to be in possession of a handgun. Both handguns have been modified with an automatic switch.
In late 2024, Joliet police launched Operation Streetsweeper, a coordinated crackdown that led to the arrest of 21 suspects tied to weapons, drugs, burglary, and theft offenses across the city. The operation, which involved the Joliet Police Department, Will County State's Attorney's Office, and federal partners, including the ATF and U.S. Marshals, was designed to target repeat offenders and high-risk individuals believed to be driving the city's recent surge in gun violence. Joliet Police Chief Bill Evans said the initiative was a direct response to a spike in shootings and a renewed effort to take dangerous individuals off the streets before further violence occurred. Authorities described it as a proactive, intelligence-driven sweep that had been in development for months, with officers serving warrants, executing searches, and conducting surveillance on known offenders. Investigators emphasized that many of those arrested were repeat offenders with extensive criminal histories, and the operation's focus was on suspects statistically most likely to re-offend or become involved in retaliatory violence. Several automatic and semi-automatic firearms were seized, including multiple Glock handguns with illegal conversion devices. Police described these recoveries as critical, noting that removing such weapons from circulation could prevent future homicides. Following the sweep, officials described Operation Streetsweeper as a major success, citing the large number of warrants cleared and the immediate disruption of criminal networks within Joliet. They also drew parallels to a similar mass arrest in 1993, which saw nearly 50 gang members detained and a subsequent drop in shootings across the city. Community leaders and prosecutors hope this operation will yield similar results, particularly in reducing retaliatory gun violence.
A mass shooting at a Halloween party in Joliet Township. 2 people are dead and more than a dozen others injured.
Further down behind me is that house where close to 200 people gathered for that party. One that grew so big that friends of the host say people were showing up that they didn't even recognize.
We got 3 victims in the back. 1 gunshot wound to the back, 1 to the head, and 1 to the chest.
A backyard Halloween party spiraled quickly into a nightmare.
I just heard people like screaming, saying there's bodies on the floor, People were getting hit. I seen people come out with like blood on their hands.
The gunfire that left at least 2 dead and a dozen injured at the party sent everyone else running for their lives.
There was people running in the forest and just jumping the fence, trying to, I don't know if I seen them, maybe like 10 people. They were trying to go through people's yards.
As police investigate, witnesses are still trying to understand how this happened.
People are showing up that we literally had no idea who they were. And even the host of the party, she was like, I don't even know these people. Like, where did they even come from?
Sisters Vanessa and Valerie didn't want to reveal their last names, afraid of repercussions, but shared this photo of happier times from the night before it turned deadly.
You just hear like these popping sounds. It was like a whole wave of people. They just fell backwards on top of everyone.
They realized quickly this was no Halloween prank.
All you see is everybody, like on the floor, and then when everybody starts to get up and they're like scrambling over each other trying to get out, I see, there's this guy in front of me just on the floor. Everybody was just running over him and stomping over him.
Unable.
In late 2021 and early 2022, law enforcement in Will County made key arrests tied to the deadly mass shooting at a Joliet Township Halloween party on October 31st, 2021, which left Holly Matthews and Jonathan Ceballos dead and several others wounded. 3 men, Joscar Ramos, Thomas Lopez, and Jeremy Lopez, were arrested and charged in connection with the attack. On November 5th, 2021, Ramos was apprehended by the Will County Sheriff's Office on weapons violations. Witnesses say that while being taken into custody, Ramos attempted to stash a firearm on his rooftop. He was detained without incident and held on $1 million bond for the weapons offenses. Later, on January 4th, 2022, investigators with the Will County Gang Suppression Unit and the Warrant Division, working with the U.S. Marshals Great Lakes Regional Fugitive Task Force, arrested Thomas and Jeremy Lopez at their residences following surveillance and investigation. Thomas had been under observation for hours. Jeremy was hidden in a residence with his young child when found. Law enforcement also arrested Jeremy's girlfriend, Reina Rodriguez, on outstanding drug-related warrants while securing the scene. Prosecutors allege that all 3 men are affiliated with the Vice Lords gang and have extensive firearms and violent criminal histories. Each faces identical charges: 6 counts of first-degree deletion, attempted first-degree deletion, 5 counts of aggravated battery with a firearm, aggravated discharge of a firearm, and aggravated unlawful use of a weapon. In subsequent developments, the scope of the case expanded. In February 2023, prosecutors added charges after a 3rd victim, Sergio Hernandez, who was paralyzed in the original shooting, later died from those injuries. That brought the total alleged fatalities to 3. Ramos attempted a legal move in March 2025 to represent himself, asking the court to allow him to proceed without counsel, a request that was granted in part, allowing him to fire his public defender and demand full disclosure of police reports, interrogations, and evidence. His next hearing was scheduled for April 16, 2025. In July 2025, a judge denied Thomas Lopez's motion to suppress statements he gave to deputies, ruling that Lopez had not validly invoked his right to counsel and that his statements were voluntary. That decision strengthened prosecutors' access to evidence in trial preparation. Meanwhile, Jeremy Lopez and Ramos had their pre-trial hearings set for September 15, 2025, and David Grijalva, another suspect later added to the indictment, was scheduled for court on September 24, 2025. Grijalva, who is alleged to have fired into the same crowd, was charged in October 2024 as the 4th suspect. In November 2021, officers from the Will County Sheriff's Office Warrant Unit, in cooperation with the U.S. Marshals Service Great Lakes Regional Fugitive Task Force, arrested David Grijalva in the 900 block of Wood Street in Joliet, Illinois. He was wanted on a laundry list of serious charges including attempted deletion, aggravated battery with a firearm, aggravated discharge of a firearm, and 2 counts of aggravated unlawful use of a weapon. Investigators had identified him earlier at a relative's residence. When they confirmed he was inside, they entered and took him into custody without incident, finding him in a basement bedroom. Grijalva is alleged to be a known associate of the Vice Lords street gang, and law enforcement asserted that he regularly carried firearms. In a later development, he was charged as a fourth suspect in a fatal mass, shooting at a Halloween party in Joliet Township on October 31st, 2021, which left 3 people dead and many others wounded, with prosecutors alleging a gang-related feud and linking casings from that scene to other shootings. Despite an earlier bail release on other charges, a judge later denied his attempt to use cash bail following new first-degree deletion charges. In February 2016, law enforcement in the Joliet area launched a sweeping crackdown on members of the Latin King street gang, culminating in the arrest of 19 individuals on state and federal drug, weapons, and violent crime charges. The most serious of those charges centered on the 2010 shooting death of Nicole Natalie Rodriguez, who was fatally shot while seated in a car with her young daughter. On February 23, 2010, Rodriguez was sitting in a parked car when an assailant fired into the vehicle, striking her twice as her 8-year-old daughter watched from the back seat. The attack left the community shaken and became a cold case for years until new evidence helped investigators connect it to the Latin Kings. Among those arrested was Aaron Bowers of Joliet, who was charged with first-degree deletion in connection to Rodriguez's death, along with multiple weapons violations, including possession of a firearm by a felon and illegal sale of a firearm. His bond was set at $2.5 million. The operation that led to his arrest, known as Operation King Kong, was a joint effort. During the sweep, authorities seized more than 40 firearms and various drugs. Other defendants charged alongside Bowers included Jordan Rent, Salvador de Los Angeles, David de Los Angeles, Miguel Antonino, Miguel Holloway Valadez, Samuel Williams, Mario Quintero, Ralph Garcia, Salvador Lopez, Kimberly Ledwell, Gabriel Travis, Juan Martinez, and Abiel Razo, all facing various narcotics and weapons offenses. Ralph Garcia, a 56-year-old with a violent criminal history that included shooting a Joliet police officer in 1992, was among those charged federally. The arrests were part of a broader strategy to dismantle the Latin Kings network and disrupt their control over narcotics and weapons trafficking in the region. Tragically, the lead defendant, Aaron Bowers, never faced trial. On April 23, 2019, he was found unresponsive in his jail cell at the Will County Adult Detention Facility and later pronounced dead at a local hospital. The Will County Coroner's Office determined that his death resulted from natural causes, specifically dilated cardiomyopathy, a heart condition. With his death, prosecutors filed a motion to close the case against him. Although Bowers' death prevented a full trial for the demise of Nicole Rodriguez, the 2016 operation dealt a major blow to the Latin Kings' presence in Joliet. Authorities said the arrest disrupted the gang's leadership structure, removed violent offenders from the streets, and significantly reduced the flow of narcotics and illegal firearms in Will County. The case remains one of the largest and most coordinated anti-gang crackdowns in the area's recent history. On June 1, 2024, Fernando Contreras was fatally shot in Joliet amid what prosecutors say was a gang-related dispute. In response, authorities charged Elian Raya and John Roy Hernandez Jr., both from Joliet, with first-degree deletion in connection with the demise. 2 additional men were wounded in the same incident. According to court documents and prosecutorial statements, video surveillance showed a vehicle looping past Contreras' residence twice before the shooting. Afterward, 2 suspects exited the car, entered through an open fence, and lingered on the property for about 2 minutes before opening fire. A neighbor later reported hearing around 15 shots. Investigators recovered 31 shell casings, which they say came from 2 separate 9 handguns. Contreras was struck by a gunshot to the head and died. 1 victim suffered a graze wound to the head, and another was struck 4 times. The victims had been inside the home watching a televised fight before the attack. Further details indicate that the motive appears tied to a long-standing feud. Prosecutors assert that gang-related evidence ties the shooting to past tensions. Raya also faces charges for aggravated fleeing from police after a high-speed chase that traversed Interstate 80, Illinois Route 59, Jefferson Street, and concluded in Shorewood. Regarding the defendants' backgrounds, Hernandez has a history of violent cases. Prior to this, he had been arrested multiple times on drive by shooting and assault charges and had been released on bond in earlier cases. A members of violent street crew convicted of armed robbery and jewelry heist. In August 2014, two men, Juan Ramos and Saul Sandoval, executed a bold armed robbery targeting jewelry dealers. The pair, believed to be affiliated with the Gangster Two-Six street crew, followed their victim from a swap O-Rama flea market in Chicago to a residence in Riverside. As the jeweler stepped out of his vehicle in the suburban driveway, the robbers, masked and armed, forced him to the ground and stole over $30,000 in cash and jewelry. One victim had a gold chain ripped from his neck. When a 76-year-old woman came to investigate the commotion, Sandoval allegedly brandished a weapon and threatened her, demanding she stay out of this. The robbers fled to a waiting getaway car. Investigators pieced together their movements by analyzing surveillance footage from businesses along their route, such as Swap-O-Rama and a Berwyn, Fruit Market, and cross-referencing cell phone tower pings. Within days, police located and arrested Ramos and Sandoval, both of whom had admitted gang associations. After a 5-day jury trial in Cook County, both men were convicted of armed robbery on March 20th, 2015. Prosecutors had offered them a plea deal for 10 years, which they rejected. The jury returned guilty verdicts after about 4 hours of deliberation. Ramos was sentenced to 29 years in Illinois State Prison, while Sandoval received 23 years. The sentence terms required that they serve 85% of that time before being eligible for release. However, Ramos later appealed. In 2018, an Illinois appellate court reversed his conviction and remanded his case for a new trial. The court held that a key piece of evidence, historical cell site, data summarizing his phone's tower pings, as testified to by a detective, was improperly admitted as hearsay without proper authentication, and also found error in limiting defense counsel's closing argument. At that time, Sandoval's conviction remained intact, though the appellate decision raised the possibility of further review or retrial for both. As of the latest public records, Ramos's original conviction had not stood unaltered, and the appellate decision had reopened procedural questions in his case. Sandoval's conviction and sentence stood unless further appeal or retrial altered his status. In early morning hours, Joliet police arrested Tyler Finch after a string of shootings left one house struck by bullets and several statues ostensibly broken. Officers first received reports of gunfire into the air near the unit block of Hunter Avenue. They soon learned the same suspect had then fired upon a residence in the 100 block of Illinois Street. Responding units located Finch in a vehicle on Illinois Street, where he admitted to having a handgun in the console. A weapon was recovered, and investigators noted the serial number had been removed or defaced. One home sustained bullet damage consistent with the recovered firearms ammunition. Finch, who resides on the same block, was arrested without incident and jailed in Will County. He was charged with a number of serious offenses: aggravated discharge of a firearm, reckless discharge of a firearm, unlawful possession of a firearm by a street gang member, defacing identification marks on the weapon, possession of a firearm without a FOID card, and criminal damage to property. Court documents indicate Finch also faced allegations of a related shooting at his own residence, where he reportedly fired weapons at people inside the home. Prosecutors contend that Finch's actions were not random, but part of an escalation of conflict. Though not all details are publicly confirmed, the criminal complaint states he was angry about disputes within his household when he allegedly discharged rounds toward both his residence and nearby streets. In a sweeping anti-gang operation, Joliet and Will County authorities arrested 16 people and seized a large cache of drugs and firearms during what was described as one of the area's biggest coordinated crackdowns. The early morning raids targeted armed offenders and suspected gang members believed to be fueling gun violence in the region. By the end of the operation, police had confiscated 31 illegal firearms, including several semi-automatic handguns and rifles, along with more than 200 grams of coke. 16 suspects were taken into custody on felony charges ranging from unlawful use of a weapon to armed habitual criminal and drug trafficking. Among those arrested was J. Allen Nink Jr., who faced the most serious charges, armed habitual criminal, gun running, and multiple weapons violations, with a $1 million bond. Others included Jose Sanchez, Cesar Zavala, Andrew Knox, Jessica Franchini, James Talmadge, Charles Jelly, and Anthony Alexander, all charged with varying combinations of narcotics and weapons offenses. Authorities noted that several of the defendants were documented gang members with prior gun convictions. 4 Joliet area gang members were arrested Wednesday afternoon in a case that police say involved efforts to intimidate and recruit students near Joliet Central High School. Deputy Chief Ed Gregory explained that 3 adult men and 1 17-year-old juvenile had been loitering in the parking lot of a barbershop at 301 East Cass Street, directly across from the school, in apparent gang colors. Authorities believe their presence was part of a pattern, showing up in gang regalia and making gestures or physical contact in prior incidents to coerce or entice students into gang activity. Officers conducted a protective sweep of the area and took the 4 into custody. Because police did not observe active threats or direct intimidation at that moment, charges were limited to criminal trespass to property they were simply on the premises without authorization. But local law enforcement emphasized that this action was preventive in nature. In previous confrontations, the same individuals had flashed gang signs, got into physical scuffles with students, and made students feel unsafe. The court records state that Finch's presence in past situations had crossed the line into overt recruitment and intimidation. The men's addresses were publicly reported. Prince is from the 1300 block of Richmond Street, Venson from the 500 block of Chase, Ward from the 1000 block of Garfield and Lockport, and the juvenile's identity was withheld. No gang was officially named during the announcement to avoid amplifying their notoriety. All 4 were held for trespass and scheduled to appear before the appropriate juvenile or criminal court. From mass arrests like Operation Streetsweeper to the Vice Lord's Halloween Party massacre, and from the Latin King's 2016 Operation King Kong takedown to the Gangster Two-Six jewelry heist convictions, each case underscores the same brutal truth: Joliet's gang violence runs in waves. Every new generation inherits the grudges of the last, replaying cycles of revenge that have haunted neighborhoods for decades. Yet, behind every arrest and indictment is a glimpse of progress. Police and prosecutors have shown an increasing ability to connect local incidents to broader criminal networks, using federal partnerships, data-driven targeting, and community outreach. Each gun seized, each leader convicted, it chips away at a culture of fear that once seemed permanent. Joliet's story isn't just about gangs and guns, it's about endurance. It's about a city constantly reinventing itself, from its industrial heyday to its modern revival, and now to its ongoing battle for safety and identity. The same grit that built Joliet's steel mills fuels its resilience today. As the city moves forward, its residents, law enforcement, and leaders remain determined to ensure Joliet is remembered not for its violence, but for its strength, culture, and unbreakable will to change.